Hi, it's Pete here from See Your Toes again. This is podcast number 19, and today I have a guest by the name of AJ Rockatansky, and he's going to chat all about his journey through weight loss and health and so on. I've met AJ on Twitter, on X. It gets confusing. I never quite know what to call it, to be honest. Um, and um, and I was intrigued with his journey, so I contacted him, and here we are. So, welcome, AJ.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here and glad to meet you.
Good, excellent. So, tell me about. I guess the good place to start would be at the start. So, where were you, and how long ago? I guess how long ago was it before you decided to embark on a? Would you call it a weight loss strategy?
No, it was a lifelong struggle with sleep apnea that had my weight bobbing up and down my whole adult life. Not so much as a kid, I was a skinny lad. And I just blew up in my early 20s. And I've been fighting it. And I've been fighting it wrong. And I've been just up and down up until I hit carnivore.
Yeah. Okay. So, how long ago was that you decided to approach carnivore?
7 months ago, eight, nine, let's see, 9/2/2023.
Okay. All right. So that's pretty good. So therefore, at that stage, I mean, we'll talk about there's two sides to this. Well, actually, I always think there's three sides. One is weight itself. The second is health, as in physical health, and the third is mental health. And they're all related. And I find that most people have had an alteration with all three of those things. So would you? Oh, by the way, I've got this croaky voice because I lost my voice last week, and today is the first day that we could actually record the podcast without me sounding like Kermit the Frog. So, so at the start, then you've mentioned your sleep apnea. I saw a picture on X that had you with a bloody big tube coming out of your. Well, it looked like you were the Martian.
There's two of them out there. One of them I took while I was in a sleep lab, and the other one I took, my daughter took while I was asleep because she thinks she's hilarious. So, and they both had pretty big tubes on me. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So tell me a little bit about that then, because I don't know a lot about it.
Well, sleep apnea is when you choke to death in your sleep. It comes from inflammation or genetics or perhaps drinking too much. There are lots of causes for it. I have no idea what mine was, but I know what made it worse, and that was my diet. And of course, when the weight packed on, it really force multiplied. It was unbearable. Um, Hold on here. Windows is reminding me to update. Okay. Sorry, threw me off.
Yeah.
Pause.
Uh,
Yeah. So as I was getting fatter, as I was getting sleep deprived, driving, falling asleep while driving, I was about 28 at the time. I said, something's really wrong with me. I went to the doctor. He said, well, you're just stressed. I looked it up online afterwards, found out I had sleep apnea. Went back to the doctor. He comes back, says, hey, we found out you have sleep apnea. I said, great. So they put me on a machine, and for 20 years, I did well on the sleep apnea, but I never lost the weight. A lot dropped off in the beginning, but by then my diet, what I did to myself actually was to cope with the sleep apnea, I went to a lot of sugar. When I woke up in the morning, I would eat a box of cereal, a whole entire box. And that would give me the energy to stay awake and not fall asleep on the way to work. I would crash in work, eat junk for lunch. That'd keep me awake till 5 o'clock. Around 6 o'clock, and this is back in 2001, 2002, we had glass monitors. My head would conk into the monitor when I fell asleep, and the sound of a skull hitting a glass monitor. It was very amusing to the office people, but it wasn't amusing to me because it was all because of my sugar that I got myself hooked on.
yeah.
And I couldn't shake it quite so well, but that's what sleep apnea does to you. It really does a number on how you handle it. And, you get compliance with the machine. You wear it sometimes. Other times you go a month without it because you feel like you've healed yourself of it. All sorts of factors there. Believe me, when carnivore came along and got rid of my sleep apnea, that was one of the greatest days of my life because I didn't have to comply anymore. I didn't have to do something external. I fixed the real problem, and a lifelong problem. The diagnosis was in 2001, and that's 23 years ago. So that's a long time to be wearing that big tube of air.
Yeah, I can imagine, and it would have affected every part of your life if you had to wear that.
You can imagine the sex life, huh?
Yeah, yeah. Again, a little bit like The Martian. Um,
Exactly, Darth Vader.
yeah, okay. Um, yes, I'm imagining that. I'm not. I don't want to imagine that. Um, so that's really interesting. So, in as much as did the sugar diet or your reliance on sugar, was that what made you large, or were you large and it was making you larger?
I was a very skinny kid. And as everything progressed, the weight came on in time. I didn't blow up overnight. There were a few spurts here and there. I was a beer drinker, so that helped at the time to blow me up. But definitely the sugar was what pushed me along with the health. I didn't have any mental problems at the time. I was a bit quirky, but goes hand in hand with drinking and just being young. But it all came in due time. It wasn't a big entire. My health blew up one day. They're very very slow. And once again, because I was young. When you're young, you can handle
Yeah.
things. As I got older, oh, the problems just they really multiplied.
And just to let the audience know, when you're saying young and then older, what sort of time, what sort of ages were you in those categories?
Well, let's see. I'm 54 right now. So going back to when the sleep apnea was hitting me the worst was when I was at 28, 30. That's when it started to show, manifest. That's when I started carbing and sugaring to keep my body awake, to keep my body moving. I wasn't in pain at the time. And that's what kept me eating carbs and sugar. Believe me, if I was in pain at the time, I would have been my own research doctor.
Yeah.
I would have got to the bottom of this. And I think that's why us carnivores and keto people, we're all old. There are no young people who do carnivore and keto except maybe long distance runners
Yeah.
and maybe weightlifters. They're into their own thing. But yeah, so the time frame was up until I was 25, I was skinny as a rail. And then things started coming in as the sugar and carbs came in to deal with the sleep.
Yeah, okay. And so I guess the sugar and carbs were also because plenty of people were out there telling you needed that to stay awake. You needed that for energy. Let's face it, your body needs all of that glucose for energy. Best you pump yourself full of it all the time.
Oh yeah, I had a free pass.
Yeah.
I had a free pass for everything I did. I didn't have to even look to people. It was in my head already that what I'm doing, not only is it normal, people expect it.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So, what sort of? And I know I'm just talking about weight. I'm just getting a picture. I'm just building a picture here. What sort of weight would you have been at your before you switched over? Before you said enough's enough?
I blew up to 360. Let me think of the date. I do have a picture of it. One of my friends got married. I would say 2003. And it was right after being diagnosed, and I was waiting for my machine. And I don't know what happened to me, but I went from 340 to 360 in a matter of a month waiting for that machine. So 360 was my highest in about 2001. And I've hit that plateau again during keto, and we'll get into that later of what keto did to me, dirty keto.
Yeah.
I'm not smashing
All right.
keto at
Okay.
all,
Yep.
smashing what I did with keto.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
But yeah, that's the time frame on that. And I had great years. I had bad years. I had one year I was in CrossFit and I was in very, very good health. That's another story for later down the podcast here.
Yep. Okay. Cool. So 360 for the metric people, I think, is around 160, 165 kilograms. I could be wrong with that. I should know by now, but
I was expecting stone.
yeah. Well, stone
70
stone
stone.
gets me again. In fact, I did spend some time working out all three, and I have no idea how many stone I am, let alone how many stone you would have been. So I'll
That's the only reason I came on this
oh
podcast
no, sorry.
to find out how many stone I am.
That's what Google's for. Um, so all right. So then, okay. So you were in this situation, and then you switched to. Did you switch to keto first or carnivore first?
Yeah, my ex-wife in 2004, 2005, we were having trouble conceiving. So we did the South Beach, her idea, and the bacon drew me right in. It's, once again, you get a pass from somebody and you're like, hey, let's run with this. I ran with the bacon. We destroyed 2 microwaves cooking all that bacon, but I lost a lot of weight. And I said, this keto works. And I looked into the science of it, and the science was solid. I learned all about ketones. I learned all about what happens in the long run and all that. And that was my first foray into that around 2004, 2005. And I tried to look into it. I tried to find out the exact date I started. It's buried in emails somewhere where I have, when I was sending out my friends little email blasts. So one day I will come up with the exact date that I went South Beach with terrific results. I'm not advocating South Beach diet. I'm advocating the keto part of it,
Yeah.
and doing it right. They had it down on that.
So it was your ex-wife that suggested it to you, or prompted you for it. It wasn't just.
To us, both of us together. We were in it
Yeah.
together.
Okay. What made you think that? Because you've gone from one extreme to the other. I personally don't know anything about the South Beach diet, but you've gone from a high sugar, high carb diet to a keto diet. That must have been chalk and cheese.
I can't remember the sugar part of it back then. I know as I got older that sugar was addictive. I don't think I was so addicted to sugar at that time where it bothered me that much. And the bacon really, really helped because I wasn't allowed to eat bacon because my own mind told me I was going to die of a heart attack,
Yeah.
especially being so big.
Yeah.
I didn't touch bacon. But when I saw a book that said, don't worry about it, that replaced everything right there. And whatever's magical about bacon, it really helps with the sugar cravings, apparently. Maybe I'll find some notes in my emails when I dig them up of talking to other people while I was doing
Yeah.
this.
Okay. So you lost quite a bit of weight. And how did that make you feel?
I got all my work done. I did have crashes and everything because I wasn't doing the South Beach right after a few weeks. When I dropped that initial weight, you get that first 10, 15 pound drop, and then you get a couple pounds a week. Eventually, you start sneaking other things in because that's the way the diets go. Atkins and South Beach. They say, okay, now you've lost the weight. Let's start getting back to normal. Now, back to normal back then meant eating more carbs and vegetables. A sane amount, but still a sane amount. And when you've been through so much with the carbs and sugar, your idea of sane and their idea of sane lead to destruction. So that's why I yo-yoed for so many years on ketogenic diets.
So it sounds as if you were on keto or a ketogenic diet of sorts for quite a while. Then it wasn't just a passing phase.
Off and on with that whole the inductive phase, the induction phase. And that was my favorite phase because all you ate was bacon and hamburgers and pickles. And it really, I was very happy with that. But, the nagging thing in your head, you can't go on forever eating this.
Yeah.
And you do kind of miss things. There's some powerful things. I forget what you've talked about in your book, but, some things that you just got to have a day of having. Which isn't a factor with carnivore with me, but with keto, it was through the roof. And I'd find any way to get it in. I'd try to make a little Franken creation that pacified me. And then you'd edge a little more stuff in and keep going until you blew the diet.
Yeah.
And you're back to kind of square one. I very rarely hit my 360 again, but there were times, and, we'll get into that.
Yeah. Okay. It's interesting you say that because there are a lot of people out there, of course, they go, oh, yeah, okay, I'll do keto. That's good. And then the first thing they do is they go online and they buy themselves a keto cookbook. And there's all sorts of things that they can cook up using erythritol and all sorts of artificial sweeteners. And they're making themselves cheesecake and keto ice cream and biscuits. And it's kind of like they end up eating more crap than they did at the start before they were keto. And personally, I think once you get used to not having all that sugar in your diet, you don't need it in your diet. You don't have the cravings for all that, what I'm going to vaguely call crap,
Mm-hmm.
So, and it is easy. It's easy to have a cheat meal that becomes a cheat day, that becomes a cheat 2 days, and then What's another day then? Look, I'll just make it this week, and next week I'll get back on the wagon.
What's another day then? Yep, that was my rally cry
Yeah,
for
yeah, okay.
blowing the
Yeah,
diets.
okay.
Yes.
So you went from keto, and then at some stage, carnivore introduced itself to you. And it's interesting you say that because certainly a couple of years ago, a lot of the keto people I was listening to were dabbling in carnivore. And I had my own thought processes, as I'm sure everybody did, about what it would be like to eat just meat and nothing else. And I must admit that I have tried it, and I quite like it, and it does seem to have a very positive effect on me. The only problem is, from my perspective, is I do like my green veg, my asparagus, and all that sort of palaver. Um, so anyway, tell me, it's not about me, it's about you. So I do talk a lot. So what made you choose to go carnivore as opposed to keto?
Oh, trust me, you're keeping me focused by talking. You remind me exactly the track we're on here. My mind sometimes wanders off on my own thoughts. I start figuring out my own problems in my own head while I'm talking, and suddenly the conversation turns. So I thank you for keeping me on track there. Now, uh, on September 2nd, back in 2023, I was going for yet another round of keto induction phase. I was going to spend the next 2 weeks just eating meat, pickles, and a few other benign things with zero carbs. That was always my trick to drop the first 20 pounds fast. Just choose everything with no carbs at all. So there was no room for failure on that induction phase. But for some strange reason, I kept doing the same, bringing the old foods back because it was allowed. That's what keto is all about. Get back to normal, but within a sane reason. What happened was I was looking for a few extra things just out of happenstance on Twitter. So I'm on there, and everything I kept looking up kept bringing me to the carnivores. When I started Twitter back in August, late August, early September, I was supposed to be an eBay guy. That's what I wanted to do. That's why I chose the name AJ Rockatansky for my persona, because I spend my life going through other people's junk. And I don't want them online finding out who I am, saying, hey, there's the guy who won my auction locker. So, I came up with a name, and that was it. I spent 2 weeks being a guy who did eBay stuff on Twitter, and the algorithm took my concern about meat and keto and shoved me towards carnivore people. And of course, the doctors, the big five doctors, they kept showing up like crazy. And when I've seen as many fad diets as I have over the years. Believe me, I've had friends into every diet that there was for weightlifting and all that stuff. And when I saw this carnivore thing, something really stuck with me that, hey, dummy, you've been doing this carnivore thing for 2 weeks at a time your whole life. Why don't you just do what they do and stick with it? Well, the rest is history. It's been over 7 months now, and I am fully invested in that algorithm. It controls me. I kind of control it. And it's just all that I'm about now. And that keeps me on track. People yell about the algorithm screwing them up and everything. Well, seeing as how my whole life is carnivore now, and it really is. Every morning I wake up with it. Every night I go to bed with it. Throughout the day, I take pictures that involve carnivore. There's nothing that isn't carnivore throughout my whole day. And algorithm is to thank. And then, of course, the people who brought the information to me through that algorithm. So, yeah, that's how that all shook out.
Okay. And so, how did that have an effect? How did that affect your health and getting back to your apnea for a start? When have you found that the sleep apnea has gone, or is it just simmering, or do you have other, I don't know a lot about it. Do you have bouts of it? Is it still there,
Oh,
or is it gone?
100% gone. There are a few other people online who had the same phenomenon.
Mm,
um, Homestead How, he does a lot of YouTube videos, and he's younger than me, but not that much younger. But he's full of energy, and he has the before and after to prove it. And he's one of the people who got me hooked in the beginning. When I saw the before and after photo, and he said the magical word sleep apnea, I could not watch all his videos. And then as he talked more and more, I realized I don't have to do videos. I just have to point everyone I talk to his videos. Same exact track as me. And it's kind of insane to say my sleep apnea is gone, because it's not like there's a conspiracy of people out there saying you can't get rid of it, you can't cure it, you have it, that's it. No, nobody really talks about it either way. And seeing as how he did it, and he talks about it on YouTube, and I do it, and I talk about it on Twitter, and I'm slowly finding other people who say, "Well, I've noticed it got better." Well, unless you're having somebody monitor you and everything, hey, I had to take my phone and monitor myself. Say, "Am I snoring?" Or ask my kids, "Hey, is my door moving in and out with my snoring?" No, no, they say everything's perfect. So, am I cured? Well, it's a very touchy way to say it, because I don't think it was anything sort of a disease or a condition so much as it was a circumstance of seed oils, bad food, fatness inflamed my neck so bad that what else am I going to do but snore at night?
Yeah.
You lie down, all that fat has to go somewhere. And my sinuses too. I've had clear sinuses for the past 7.5 months. Clear, clear, clear. I used to be a typical mouth breather guy. I look like a moron. Now I breathe through my nose and I feel like a yoga master.
Mm.
It's really refreshing to do, and not one bad day in 7.5 months. And that goes with sleep apnea and sinuses. I thought I was doomed for life, and it's not that I was hopeless. I was just resigned to the fact.
And this is the funny thing about it too, because of course you hear all of the negative people out there. They're saying things like, for example, carnivore. Where's your vitamin C coming from? Carnivore, there's no fiber. Carnivore, it's not as you've always heard with keto. It's not long term. You can't do it long term. And yet there are so many people out there saying, "Hey, I've done it for X number of months, weeks, years, and I'm only getting healthier every month. I'm not getting worse. I'm not getting problems. I don't have scurvy." Um, it's it's contradictory to what all the negative people say about it. It's contradictory to what, of course, we've all been taught. Because we should all be eating lots of oranges and apples. An apple a day keeps someone away, and we should be having all of our fibrous vegetables. And you're having none of that, and you're talking about how healthy you are, or how healthy you feel.
And I'm sure it's going to go on forever.
Yeah.
Uh, I have not had a bad day except for constipation, which I expected, which I learned about when your gut heals itself. When you have cleared out all the things that have been stopping the good nutrition from coming through your gut, and it starts coming through, things change. Bad bacteria dies off, good bacteria starts growing. There are so many changes there. And I think that it was like a week of constipation that um, I don't like to talk about it, but I have to mention it, that I'm sure a lot of people get scared by it. When your body heals, boom, that's you got to deal with it.
Well, that's right, and that's the thing about gut bacteria. They are going to change pretty fast. They're bacteria, they're fungi. That whole flora and fauna in your gut are all animals that live for, God, I don't know how long a bacteria lasts for. It would be hours, I would have thought, his lifespan.
Hmm.
It's not going to be months or years, and so it's quite quickly going to be changed from one bacteria to another. Um, and so that brings me on to another one, actually, because gut bacteria I'm kind of a little bit more interested in than I was. And one of the reasons I'm interested in is because of all the processed foods, because there are so many people saying out there, and I'm one of them, don't eat processed foods. They're one of the major problems with basically society's obesity, type 2 diabetes, all of this sort of thing, heart disease. If we got rid of processed foods, we'd be halfway there. Now, that's all because people are focusing on the sugar in processed foods and the vegetable oils, the seed oils. But the other big thing, of course, is that they're all packed full of bloody preservatives. And those preservatives hit your gut bacteria, and what are they going to do? They're going to stop preserving all of a sudden. They're going to keep preserving all the way through till you poop them out the other end, and they're going to just wreak havoc all the way through.
That's an argument I've never seen any opposition want to get engaged with. That's a argument killer right there for them. They know it. They don't like talking about it. You can't escape from those preservatives nowadays. They're everywhere. And now I have seen a few people say, well, I go to the organic market. I'm sure that's a whole nother can of worms there with what they're getting from their organic market. But yeah, that's I use that as a bulletproof argument. And I'm a living proof that that gut biome, it's not fragile, but when you mess with it, it messes with you.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So, what would your day look like as far as your diet?
Oh, that's real easy. One meal a day, beef, eggs, maybe a pickle if I'm in the mood, and that's usually my normal day.
Okay.
Once in a while, I make some carnivore bread because carnivore bread's fun. So once a week, once every 2 weeks, I'll make a little waffle out of egg and cheese. I stopped eating cheese. I stopped drinking milk. They just fell away. I don't eat chicken, veal, any of that light stuff anymore. I love the fat. My body loves the fat. I can't eat chicken anymore. It doesn't taste bad. It just seems very pointless to me. It's like eating one of those rice cakes that they used to make for dieters. That's really what a chicken piece of chicken tastes like now. So I crave the fat, and I don't like how society has brainwashed everyone into thinking fat is bad. In fact, last night I was thinking about this really heavily. My body's made up of that goopy fat. If you were to cut me up like a cow, you'd have handfuls of goopy fat. Especially with me, I'm still losing weight. But even your average normal person is made up of that white goop. Now, the people against carnivore say, you're putting that in your body. Look how it solidifies in 70-degree weather. Well, my body fat does that too, and I'm walking around with it. I'm using my own body fat for fuel. What's the difference between the cow's body fat and my body fat? It's the same stuff. I'm not poisoning myself by losing a pound while jogging, and they seem to think by me ingesting it that I'm doing damage. And a lifelong brainwash by them of not eating fat. That was hard to overcome. And now that I've fine tuned my intake, I just crave fat all the time. It's I'm kind of ridiculous. If there is a danger point, I'm pushing it.
Yeah, okay. Sorry again, my voice. That's really interesting though, because this, especially the saturated fats. You know, we have all grown up, your generation, my generation. Saturated fats are bad. They're going to kill you. They're going to give you a heart attack. They're going to block up your arteries, which is all clearly bullshit. We know it's bullshit. And then, of course, we get on to the cholesterol as well, which is, you could say it was another story, but it's all related. It's all saturated fats, eggs, and cholesterol. They all go together. And
And salt.
and salt. Yeah. Um, so with the saturated fat, though, as in my book there, I talk quite a bit about saturated fats, and I'm more than happy to eat them all, because you'll still get people in the medical profession who are sort of saying, "Oh yeah, I guess there's a place for keto, but you shouldn't eat saturated fats. You should eat unsaturated fats. Olive oil, eat lots of olive oil. Eat." So you go and buy yourself a liter of olive oil and sit there watching TV, drinking olive oil. I don't know. Um, I don't find olive oil that nice. Oh, I do one thing though. I get jars of olives, um, pitted olives, because otherwise I forget the stones in there and I always just about break my bloody teeth on them. I pour out the water or whatever they come in, and I fill it up with olive oil. But I bought some jalapenos, chopped up jalapenos, which were also in water. So I poured that out and I filled that up with olive oil. When I finished the jalapenos, I used the olive oil from the jalapenos and chucked me olives in there. And now I've got olives that will burn your ass off. They they have got, just the oil alone can set your face on fire. It's quite good. But again, that's maybe something that you don't bother doing so much. But um, and I digress. But that's, of course, the olive oil I do tend to use a little bit of, but not as much as a lot of people. But the saturated fats, like the fat in the beef, um, it's how can it be bad? How can 300,000 years of us eating, chasing that boar, the wild boar, through the woods and finding, nailing the poor little bugger in the cave, cornering him and nailing him and eating, dragging him back to the cave fire, cooking him up. There's a few days worth of food there. And of course, he's got a nice layer of subcutaneous fat, and we're just loving it. We've got fat dribbling down our chins. And now people are saying, oh, no, that's bad for you. They shouldn't have done that. Those cavemen, they didn't know what they were doing. Our bodies were designed for that. That's how we grew up. That's how we what's the word I'm looking for here? Evolved over hundreds of thousands of years. And then somebody says, oh, you shouldn't eat saturated fats. They're bad for you. They're going to clog up your arteries, which, of course, we have found out since then it is all crap, and they have nothing to do with clogging up your arteries whatsoever.
I fully agree. I get into a lot of conspiracy theory when I think about why people are on this bend about pushing us away from the big five: the salt, the eggs, the beef, the cholesterol, and whatever the other one was. It really, and the tactics are the same for all five of them. It's ridiculous, and I don't see any other food being demonized except the exact food I eat. That's my whole entire diet right there, and I'm being pushed away from it from every angle out there now, except for my small pocket of users on X that I hang around with every day,
Yeah.
which is nice. If X ever disappears, I'm gonna have to go out on the road with my own show and attract my own crowd, like one of those old time medicine salesmen who go town to
Yep.
town. Because yeah, it's real easy right now, and I hope it lasts.
Yep. Okay. That's good. Um, so on that basis, then I guess you're choosing when you buy a steak, for example, you're choosing the nice fatty one. You're not saying, oh, that one there looks nicer, it's leaner, because a lot of people like fillet steak or that sort of filet mignon, and I look at it and I just can't see the fat on it, so I prefer a ribeye which has got more fat on it than a fillet steak.
Oh yeah, 100% ribeye guy here. I don't do it every day. Sometimes I don't do it every week, but ribeye is my go-to now. I didn't have a ribeye until I started carnivore. I was always the cheapest cut on the rack because hey, the fat bothered me back then. It's psychologically, and it was cheap. And I could. Oh, and I could put A1 sauce on it. I could make it taste great with all sorts of seed oils and sugars. I could make that steak sing. But now, if anyone messes with my steak, I can tell it the minute it touches my tongue. And that is a steak I'm not touching if anybody puts little bit of seed oil on it. That's the end of me eating that. Right now, it's all natural salt, and that's it. And the ribeyes, when I go to the supermarket now, I have to pick my supermarkets very wisely. Some of them just don't get good cuts of ribeye. They're garbage. You look at it from a raw point of view, and you look and there's no marbling. There's all sorts of funny business going on the sides. So I tend to go shop in richer areas. I'll go 3 towns over into a nice enclave of rich people to make sure that my markets that I shop at have a great cut.
Okay, what do you think of a sirloin?
Sirloin, huh? That's lower end. I'm not a steak expert. I'm only 7 months into this, so I have to remember which one sirloin is. Sirloin tips I've been eating my whole life, and that was a treat I gave myself on Super Bowl Sunday, barbecues with friends, bringing some steak over for the grill. Sirloin tips were always a go-to. Of course, I put my teriyaki sauce on them, which kind of ruined the niceness of it. But back then, it was what I did. Nowadays, I kind of stay away from it because the price compared to the satiety and the fat content, I don't touch it anymore. Now, that was the only sirloin that sticks out in my head. I can't say I remember ever eating a sirloin cut,
Yeah, okay.
just the
The
tips.
reason I asked that
So,
is because I used to eat a lot of sirloin, and then I was introduced to ribeye and fell in love with it.
yeah.
And if I'm at a restaurant, because I do a lot of traveling with my day job, and if I'm and so that means I'm staying away in hotel restaurants quite a bit. And if they have sirloin on the menu as their steak, I'll buy something else, because normally they're just tough as an old goat. You. Then they give you a standard knife. It's like, this knife is never going to cut the sirloin, I'm afraid. Can you come back with some very sharp knife, because I guess they're just a little bit sinewy for me, is what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, yeah. I remember that. Like I said, I don't touch them anymore. It's almost like ribeye or nothing nowadays. But I am trying out lots of new cuts. And if you were to grill me on cuts, I'd probably have a 50-50 success range of talking about the cut. Like the New York strips. I can't tell you what a New York strip is. I can only tell you what I ate last week, and that was a New York strip, and it was like a poor man's ribeye to me. So I'm talking very weird terms about cuts nowadays, except for ribeye. I praise that.
Yeah, okay.
It's the highest cut. And I've had filet mignon and everything. I'd never buy a filet mignon. I'm sure it's fatty and nice and all that, but I could have 3 ribeyes for 1 filet
Yeah,
mignon. And that's the way I prefer it to
indeed.
go.
What about the likes of lamb? Do you get much
I
lamb where
dabble.
you're from?
I dabble. We have a huge Greek population in my part of Boston. So the lamb is through the roof. And in fact, I can almost trust the stuff at the fast food joints that they're not loading it with seed oil. But then again, it is 2024. I'm sure it all has seed oil
Mm.
now. But we have Greek markets, Mediterranean markets, a lot of Lebanese around here. So the lamb is through the roof. And I don't know exactly what they do to it all, but you can get ground lamb untouched and everything. In fact, tonight I'm having buffalo burgers. I can't remember the last time I had buffalo burger. So I dabble in funny side
Mm.
meats. I had some venison a few months ago. It was okay. It reminded me of like a lower end cut, a London broil, London top broil, just one of those skinny cuts with no fat on it whatsoever. That's what venison reminded me of.
Mm.
If things go south, if society collapses, I can go shoot a few deer and I can live off it. I won't live happily. I won't be a king in my own little post-apocalyptic domain, but I'll survive
Yep.
because I live up here north in the United States and deer are plentiful. Just have to compete with other people.
Yeah.
See, I told you I get into conspiracy
Yep.
theory once in a
Yep.
while.
Yep. When you mention buffalo, do you mean bison?
I have no idea. It's illegal to sell certain cuts of meat like that. So whatever the legal one is, it, I forget the exact law, but it does say buffalo meat on the package. I'm wondering if that is buffalo or reindeer that's illegal. There's some illegal meat in the United States. You can eat it, you can shoot it yourself, you can trade it with friends, but you can't sell it in the store. And it's a certain subset. But what I have, it says ground buffalo meat, and it's hamburger
Yeah. Okay.
stuff.
Hmm. The reason I
That's
ask
what.
is that I've never had bison. I've never. I don't even think I've seen a bison at a zoo. For goodness sake. Um, a lot of
I'm sure
time
they all taste
when
the
you
same.
when people say buffalo, they mean that big cow like thing that's seen in India and stuff. That's the water
Yeah,
buffalo.
yeah.
Um,
I'm sure all those big fat cow bovine looking things all taste the
yeah.
same. The bigger they are, the tastier they are.
I wouldn't want to go out and try to shoot a bison because the bugger might turn around and say, "Ouch, that hurt," and then come at me because they're pretty darn big. Um,
We got big guns over here.
yeah, yeah. So putting your sleep apnea to the side, are there any other health things? Are there any other changes to your health that you have found over the last, since you started keto and certainly since you started carnivore?
Oh, there's 20 more. I counted 21. In fact, one of the big 5 doctors contacted me to do a video for him. And he said, yeah, do a 3-minute video on your 21 healings and I'll break it down. I tried to do a 3-minute video on my 21 healings and it ended up being a 16-minute
I
video.
was going to
I
say, if
submitted
you
it.
do 3 minutes divided by 21, that's not many seconds per unit.
Exactly. So I ended up doing a 16-minute, and even then I felt rushed. But I submitted it to him, and I never heard back from him again. That was last month. So, yeah, I could go on forever about it. I don't exactly commit them to memory. That sleep apnea is always number one with me, but the pain is number two. I couldn't walk. I couldn't walk without looking like Frankenstein, without looking like I was drunk. I had to rest every half a block. When I went on vacation, it had to be in a nice touristy area with lots of benches for the old people. Because to get from point A to point B, even if it was 2 blocks, I needed to rest 3 or 4 times. It was that bad. And it wasn't that I was fat, it was the inflammation, the knee pain, the arthritis, the rheumatoid arthritis, everything all together. And there was energy issues and breathing issues too. But the walking, and luckily, I do have a driving job on the side. I do Uber. I used to anyway. Now I do this kind of for a living. But with Uber, I sat down all the time. It was when I got out of my car at the end of the night, I would almost fall down.
Yeah.
I'd pee in the bushes because that horrible diet I was eating was causing the whole pre-diabetic thing. Now that's all 100% gone. Especially the pain, like I said, number two to the sleep apnea. It was debilitating. There was nothing left for me to do in life other than to get through another day. And I was using alcohol at the time at the end of the day to make it all worth it to go for the next day. I'd suffer through the pain. I wouldn't drink alcohol during the day, of course. I'm driving. But come nighttime, I deserve a reward for all the pain I've been in, and I need something to go on with. So that's how I blew up on my last keto bout. 3 years of keto, dirty keto. And it was the alcohol because I couldn't take the pain anymore. And as I'm getting older, the keto wasn't working anymore because they are really jamming these keto friendly, I'm doing air quotes, keto air quote friendly products. No, they're just full of seed oils that inflame you even more.
Yeah.
So that's how that all shook out there, and it was not good. I did finally kick the alcohol 3 weeks ago, and it was because of the video I was asked to shoot. I'm pretty vain, and I wanted my eyes to look good, so I said, I'll stop drinking for a few days and make sure my eyes pop in the video. And it did. It worked great. But then the video, like I said, he ghosted me on that. So I'm like, okay, in case I have to reshoot it, I can't drink. 1 week passed, 2 week passed, 3 week. I'm almost up to 4 weeks now, and I just haven't drank anything. And right now, drinking seems pretty stupid to me. I was only using it for pain. Why was I continuing to drink?
Yeah.
So, I can't say I healed from carnivore for that, but it put me in a place where I really think drinking is stupid. I can't fathom drinking now. Now, let me pop in one more biggie on the pain bit. Sleep. You need restorative sleep. I don't remember if you did a sleep chapter in your book or you just glossed over it. But when you have bad sleep, when you're in pain in the middle of the night, when you're waking up pre-diabetic, peeing every 5 minutes, it feels like that. You're not restoring yourself. You're degrading fast. So when I started the carnivore, and after I adjusted all my magnesium, potassium, and sodium, I started sleeping 8 hours straight, waking up like I just hit some sort of space age rejuvenation chamber. It felt that good. It felt surreal. It felt like I was a kid again when you used to wake up and stretch and just burst into action. So that's almost my number three there. It's tied with everything else at that
Yeah.
point. Um, yeah.
And
It's,
that comment you just made about the magnesium, I find that especially if I've been to the gym, I do it, especially if I do squats or deadlifts, both of them give me really restless legs. So my legs are knackered. My legs are so tired they can't relax. There's a bit of an irony there. And so then I'll take 2 magnesium. I'd like to say glutamate.
citrate or
I used
glutamate?
to be citrate, and then
Yeah.
my dietitian mate, Mike, said, "Oh, I use glutamate." So apparently, a lot of people can get stomach cramps and stuff from the citrate. So I thought, oh, I'll give these
Mhm.
glutamate things a go then. And my last lot have been magnesium glutamate, and yeah, I didn't have a problem with either. But yeah, they really help as far as relaxing. And when you're just about asleep and suddenly you get itchy and you have a scratch, and then you're just about asleep and something else gets itchy, you got to stop and wake up and scratch it. Well, that the magnesium gets rid of that too. It is like a wonder drug, and people do all sorts of sleep tablets. Excuse me. All sorts of sleeping tablets and stuff, and I think half of them could do with just a good dose of magnesium every night.
Oh yeah, these kids nowadays, they're all into this melatonin. Every one of my son's friends takes melatonin at night to sleep. I don't know what the phenomenon is there, but it's a thing now. Now, I can't go telling kids to, hey, go take some magnesium. That's not my job. But yeah, and I blame it on the food supply. That's
I think magnesium doesn't stick around in your body. I think that's one of the things about it. So you do need to have it, and of course, it is one of those things where I also don't think you can OD on it. So yeah,
Oh, actually, you can.
I'm not
I
saying.
was very worried. I was very worried about that. If you look at magnesium overexposure, it's not a good thing. Now, the realistic, can you overdose on it? I don't think so, but maybe over time, if you keep high dosing, I think you can run into problems with it. But I was keeping an eye on it because I wasn't sure which one was affecting me in my sleep. Was it the sodium? Uh, my electrical system wasn't working in my nerves. Was it the magnesium? And then was it the potassium? I couldn't tell which one. And I'm taking these supplements and I'm over salting my food. Eventually, it all worked itself out, which was great. But if there is what they say there is from overdosing on magnesium, I wouldn't want to live it.
Yeah. Okay.
Go look into that.
Yeah. So don't consume a whole container of magnesium, folks.
Yeah.
Might help you sleep though.
Yeah. Oh, and that's sleep nowadays. I can't say that enough of just how much the carnivore diet lets sleep come back to where it's supposed to be. When I was on the keto, when I was my worst dirty keto, if you put a camera on me, you would see me in the funniest positions, moving every 2 seconds all throughout the night, just to get my body comfortable enough with the cramps, the itching, the tingling, the numbness, the sheer pain, the waking up, the peeing. It was just a horrible night of sleep. And it's not that I was on drugs, or and it wasn't that I was drinking to excess so much. It was all that because I was still drinking 6 months out of my carnivore, and I was sleeping like a baby. In fact, the last thing I got rid of was a little anxiety before sleep, and that was the alcohol. And that was the last thing. The anxiety didn't wake me up, but it stopped me from going to sleep right away.
Yeah.
Now I pop right off. When you said you go to the gym, when you get that feeling of yes, good day done, lying down, pop right off. That's how I feel now. And I don't work out. I worked out very minimally my last 7 months on carnivore. I just do my regular work about the house, the garden, and then I do my eBay auction units, which is a lot of heavy lifting. So I do get work load in, but I don't work out. So I very rarely go to bed totally tired. But I do pop off now, and that's great.
Good. Excellent. What about things like I'm just thinking about the normal things like your skin.
I used to have back scratches everywhere in the house. So I didn't think twice about it. My father had back scratches all around his house. It was a thing. I just figured it's normal. No, because now I throw all my back scratches in the basement into the firewood pile. It just, I don't understand how I could have thought any of this was normal. I didn't have many other skin. Whoa. I had toenail fungus. I used to be a scuba diver, so of course, you're going to catch everything that everyone caught in that suit.
For sure.
Lucky that's all I caught. I couldn't get rid of it for 25 years. Almost since the day I started scuba diving, I've had those little lines all over my toes. I spent maybe $500 worth of Lamisil, the drug you use to get rid of it. Didn't put a dent in it. 2 months of carnivore, that was receding fast. Right now, my nails aren't growing so fast because of the alcohol use, but the fungus itself is gone. And now I just got to wait for the nail to catch up and look like a normal, healthy nail. But the lines are gone. The nail looks healthy. It's definitely not spreading to any of my other toes. And I've seen some other people in life with really bad reaction to this, where the stuff can actually get into their joints. And then they have to go on something that kills your liver to get rid of it. So I'm very thankful for that one. And I count that as a skin condition. Of course, the body smells too. I used to have some real weird ones going on, like my earwax smelling like syrup. Same with my crotch. I just smell syrup all the time. I'm sure that was an overload of some sort of sugar that I was doing. And yeah, nothing. Everything's just normal human smell to me now. And earwax has gone back to when I was a kid. It smells and normal now.
I don't even want to imagine any of that.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure you know the plight of really fat people. Well, imagine being not the fattest in the world and putting up with all those horrible, horrible body things. I'm sure you've seen a variant of the reality shows of, My 600-Pound Life. Any of the reality shows where they show a really heavy person what they do every day and trying to get thin. Well, they're taking the shower bit when they have to have either someone help them or they have to use long sticks with rags on them and they can't get into the shower. Stuff like, well, it was get into there, but the other little medical problems that just plague a fat person, I had them all. And it was a combination of being overweight and sugar. And I'm sure that's what got them into the deal where they got on TV being fat enough. I was tooling along day by day, getting things done. No reality show is going to touch me. Not that I wanted them to, but I still watch them, and I think, how did I think any of this was normal when I obviously saw a dying person do it, and I broke out of it because of carnivore.
It is. I think so many people fall into that category that because it's chronic, in this case, your weight or whatever your ill. I know I'm going to get in trouble saying this, but for illness, if you have a chronic illness, it's come on. Let's face it. If you've been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, oh, I've got type 2 diabetes. You've grown that for the last 20 years. Don't be surprised. It's not just something that happened last week because you ate the wrong burger. It's a chronic illness. Being overweight to that extent is chronic. It's something that's happened over a long time, and people get used to it. So then it becomes your part of life, and you change your life. One of my other podcasts I did just the other week or two ago was on IBS, because at one stage there, when I wasn't doing keto, I had a lot of IBS, and I was pooping 7 or 8 times a day, and it affected my life. It affected if I was going to drive somewhere, I had to figure out where I was going to go, knowing that there was a toilet at the other end.
Mm-hmm.
Now that becomes a chronic problem, and so I just sorted it out. I made sure if I was going somewhere, and it took a while for me to figure out. And I must admit, I Googled and I found out all about histamines and all sorts of other things because I was trying to get rid of my IBS. Went to the doctor. He wasn't much use. I got a colonography. I've written that in my book too, I'm sure. And they came out with a little bit of diverticulitis. So it's like, well, nothing showed what the damned problem was. I switched back to keto, which was ironically to lose weight for a judo competition. And lo and behold, my bloody IBS disappears. And so, whatever it was, whether it was lactose in milk or gluten or any number of other things, the fact was, or a combination of all of those things, the thing is, they all disappeared. And it's only, what I'm getting at is, it's only when something disappears that you realize that it was a chronic disorder that you have tolerated for so long. And it's like there's a bit of a hallelujah moment when you go, gee, I didn't have to tolerate that for all that time.
Yeah. Now, did you notice it off that one judo prep time and it sunk in? Because for me, it didn't. Anytime I went on that induction phase of any low carb, it didn't click that all these things are healing because I'm putting different food in me. No, I thought that I was losing weight, and it was the losing the weight did it. It had nothing to do with the food. It didn't even enter my mind. It was the food. But as we both know now, it's the food you're putting in that causes it.
Yeah.
You can be 800 pounds, and as long as you're eating right food at that moment, your stuff will start clearing up.
Mm. I remember I used to eat a Mars bar on the way to judo training, and one of my other judo mates was celiac, and he said, "Why are you doing that, Pete? Why are you eating that rubbish for?" I was like, "It gives me my energy," and he was basically yelling at me to get my shit together. Um, and he was quite right. Because he was celiac, he didn't eat a lot of that stuff because, let's face it, gluten is in so many foods that he ate quite healthy. And again, I didn't take any heed to what he said until years later when I was doing keto properly and didn't have any of these issues and had more energy than I knew what to do with. And then I realized what he was talking about, basically. So there you go.
Nice.
So, what would be your I've got a couple of notes written here. So, what would be your difficulties? You would say, do you have anything that you find difficult at the moment with regard to carnivore and stuff?
Zero, other than prices. I'm sure it's hitting you guys over here as it's hitting us over here. Food prices are just kind of ridiculous. Now, I'm not saying it's tough. It's just really, really annoying, and I would like to up my ribeye game. I've been eating way more ground burger than I ever thought I would in my life, and I'd rather do a steak every day rather than ground burger. Even though I seem to like ground burger more, I think a nice ribeye with all the connective tissue and muscle and marbling is way more healthier than the mush that they put into burger nowadays. And that goes into conspiracy that I think they're altering that mush. I think they're taking out the good fat and putting in some weird stuff. Because it depends on the place I go. Some burgers make me feel like king of the world. Other burgers, no effect. I had one before the podcast today just to make sure I was bright eyed and manic. And I'm not feeling what I usually feel when I shop at a better or a farm. I shop at a farm, let's say. When I have a farm fresh slaughtered at the farm, oh man, that stuff. I drive my kids crazy when I start getting that energy. They think I'm on drugs, and I won't shut up. And I know I'll tell them, look, I know I'm annoying you, but I'm feeling great.
Yeah.
So that's why I want to up my ribeye game a little more than it is right now. But the prices are ridiculous. We're $20 a pound. I don't know what the euro's doing now. I figure it's a little on par. So I don't know what are you paying per 100 grams over there nowadays for your
Well, I
steaks?
wouldn't have a clue, but I know that I can get a ribeye from my local Aldi, which is a budget shop that has pretty good quality. I could buy a ribeye there for £4.50 sort of thing. So that's about say €5, I guess.
Wow.
It wouldn't be well. I think you're at 0.85 or something to us. So I think. Oh, sorry, we're at 0.85 to you. So it would be
Oh, okay. Wow.
£5.50, $5.50 or something like that.
Yeah. No, that is pretty good over there.
Hmm.
Is steak a big cuisine thing over in the UK?
A lot of
Because
yeah, possibly not. There's probably not
yeah,
quite as many rednecks as there are in parts of the United States, but um,
rednecks and smart people.
yeah,
There's just two people who eat steak.
yeah, that's right. Um, so, I know I can't really answer that. I don't know.
Oh
I
no,
think.
no, no! You've said it all. As long as you didn't go, oh, you have no idea how great it
Mm,
is. No, I've been to Poland twice in the past year, and they don't do steaks over there. You can't buy a steak anywhere after 5 o'clock. You have to go to a specialty shop to get a ribeye. I shop the Aldi's over there. They don't even have really a meat department. It's full of pork and prepackaged meats. There's no butcher in these Aldi's.
yeah,
So, and everything is pretty much less than an Aldi over there. It's the smaller markets that don't have meat sections. So I'm pretty in tune with the European thing, but I forget. I haven't been to the UK since I was 10 years old, and things were a little bit different at the time.
yeah.
But yeah, yeah, it's I can imagine it's not the big cow land like New Zealand is, where New Zealand's like a Texas over there in the ocean.
Yeah, and certainly it was funny because when we were talking about lamb before, and you were talking about your Greeks and so on in Boston. Um, I grew up in the 60s and 70s in New Zealand, and Mum used to cook up a side of mutton, which of course is the adult lamb, and she would have to cook it for like 4 or 5 hours. It was tough as an old, well, literally tough as an old goat. So it had to be
Wow.
cooked slowly, and then there was all of the fat that came off, which she collected because that was all cooking fat for later on for something else. And the mutton used to taste great as long as you cooked it long and slow. And of course, these days, mutton is bloody hard to get hold of. It's mutton and goat are both used quite a bit because they're much more flavoursome than lamb.
Mhm.
They've got much more of that muttony flavour. The lamby flavour is kind of on steroids, but yeah, it's bloody expensive to buy mutton. In fact, it's
I,
hard to
I was
find.
I was going to say, I bet that if you go to a rich butcher shop in a rich area, you're going to find some great mutton there. It just seems like one of those dishes like foie gras that only the elite eat.
Yep, that's right.
And it may not be that pricey, but it's really only for the elite.
Yeah, and that was another thing that you've just reminded me. My mum used to cook up all the time, which I really enjoyed. Was brain fritters, which was sheep's
I have
brains.
that as my one note to ask you. That's my one note. Seriously? Now you gotta tell me, what does it taste like? Because I don't like brains. If there's one thing in life that freaks me out is seeing brain. I if somebody got shot next to me and a piece of brain hit me on the hand, I'd be in therapy. Now I can hack a cow up. It doesn't bug me. I can skin a deer, but a piece of brain freaks me out. And here you are eating them. So I
Yeah.
gotta hear, what do they taste like?
So she used to get them, get the sheep's brains, and I think they're called sweetbreads or something, aren't they? People give them different names so that you're not eating a brain. And then she'd mince it up and she'd add a bit. This was again when I was a kid. So, and as you can tell, I'm at least 25 years old, even though I grew up in the 60s. And she'd mix it up with a bit of flour and seasoning and stuff, and probably a couple of eggs into a fritter, into it, and she'd shallow fry them, and they were really nice. I really enjoyed them. They had the brain though has a funny texture, so it doesn't have a meaty texture. It's what would it be like? Ooh, it might be a little bit like the texture of, and I hate to use this word, it a little bit like the texture of tofu.
Unfamiliar. Luckily, I dodged that bullet, especially being from Boston. You have a lot of progressive types over here.
Yeah,
It is tofu central, but I've never had tofu in my life other than in soup form when it was mixed in and
yeah.
not a
So it's funny
bite of.
because it doesn't have it's yeah, it doesn't have it just got a funny texture. It's a bit like people don't like avocados for the same reason. Oh, I don't like the texture. Well, it's kind of like that. And I can see brain fritters would put a lot of people off because of the texture. As far as the flavor was concerned, it
Just the texture. No, it's a brain. That's what puts people
yeah,
off.
as far as the actual taste is concerned, um, it's a very mild, mellow flavor, and you can't compare it with anything else. It's just brain. But like you
Did it
said,
give you an energy boost or
oh
anything?
no, I
Or
was I
it's
was
just normal
I was
food?
6 or 7 at the time. I had plenty of energy.
Plenty of energy.
If
Yeah.
yeah, I had to just watch out I didn't get blown away in the first wind. But um, no, she used to give us plenty of those. But so there you go.
Well, if you run into one again, make sure to document it somewhere of what it does to you. If it makes you a little perky or anything, you never know. It might work like a cup of coffee. I mean, after all, it is brains. There might be something special about it.
Yeah, but it is a sheep's brain, and sheep
Oh,
aren't,
oh,
they're not well known to be on on intelligence programs.
yeah.
Mm, yeah. Okay. Now, what else can we talk about? What's your
Um,
what's your well? Okay, you carry on.
no, no. Actually, I was going to say I want to pull up my list of 21 things. I don't want to talk about all 21. I don't want to go because I really can talk about them forever.
Yeah, do it.
I put them in order so I can. Here we go. Fatty liver. They talk about all the kids nowadays having it. Well, my whole adult life of drinking, I've always had a problem with pain where my liver is. I eventually learned I was beating the snot out of my liver.
Yeah.
So, as I was in my last throes of dirty keto right before carnivore, I noticed whenever I had MSG, I would have debilitating pain over by my liver. So, I was really doing my liver in with the food and the alcohol together. And that is 100% reversed from the pain. And whatever damage I did, I hope it's healing right now. I'd hate to have something down the line. But I never went overboard with yellow eyes or yellow skin or anything. But the pain, and I never realized how much the alcohol did that. Because, when you're driving, you get into your car and you're always poking at that side and, moving around, getting in and out. Sometimes it just was through the roof. Other times it wasn't. And I realized towards the end of my keto that, yeah, my liver was complaining really, really bad. I can imagine how the kids have it because I wasn't eating sugar at the time. If you're eating sugar now and you were doing what I was doing in my body with seed oils and alcohol and the general overweight, yeah, a lot of people are in for liver troubles in the future. But I'm glad I reversed at least the pain, and I hope I did everything else on that.
Well, that's
Your IBS?
you're you,
Oh, go ahead.
you're quite right though with the fatty liver. Is that because there was always alcoholic fatty liver. So fatty liver was associated with alcoholics, and then they suddenly found, it wasn't sudden, but it would have been fairly suddenly, found a whole bunch of people being chronically ill with fatty liver who weren't drinking. And of course, that was the sugars that were building up. And it's the same as visceral fat. That liver fat and visceral fat are very similar, from what I can gather. And of course, it really screws up your liver completely. So, so that's where fatty liver has become so predominant, because of people that have got a high sugar intake in their diet. And so if you were having a high sugar intake and alcohol, then basically you're putting a gun to your liver and pulling the trigger, aren't you?
Oh yeah, that's hands down.
Mm.
That's living proof. I don't. I should have documented it a little more for the whole humanity.
Yeah.
Because nobody's paying too much attention to this sort of thing. The facts are out there that kids are suffering, but nobody's really chasing this down. They're chasing other things down that just don't matter. Oh, and getting back to your IBS, I was never diagnosed, but when you say in the bathroom 7, 8 times a day, I was pretty much there. Now, you say that you still eat vegetables, asparagus, and all that. So I bet you cut down from 7, 8 times a day to maybe 5, 6 times a day now, because you're still eating the asparagus.
No, I normally can squeeze
I'm
out one
teasing.
goodie a day. um,
The one video
I
day. With
keep
the
good tabs of that. I don't eat a lot of asparagus and stuff. Just a few, maybe two or three stems with my evening meal. I don't have any veggies or any greens with breakfast at all. So I eat probably a fat handful. I took a picture of it the other day. All of us lot, we all take pictures of what we ate and we stick it on Facebook or
oh
Instagram
yeah,
or Twitter. It's when Facebook first came out, it was a laugh. Oh, all these kids, all they're doing is taking pictures of, look what I ate today. And here we are in our 50s and 60s taking pictures of food and saying, oh, look what I ate today.
yeah.
So I don't eat a lot, but personally, I would keep a strong tab on that. If I had that issue coming back, I would be, yeah, trying to figure
Oh
out
yeah.
why.
The been there, done that, never again. That's how I go with things now. So I was never diagnosed with IBS, but I did have problems in line with what were experiencing. So right now I'm with carnivore. I'm at once every 3 days um, bowel movement, and it's like once again, it's like I'm a teenager again. It just shoots right out, and that's the end of it. I saved a lot of money on toilet paper in the last 7 months, a lot of money, and it's surreal what I was putting up with before. Really, I thought that was normal, especially since all my friends were like that. We used to joke at my poker game. It was very rude to take a crap at somebody's house in the middle of a poker game, but it wasn't uncommon for somebody in the crowd to go, "Up, gotta go."
Yeah.
I'm like, that would never happen to me now, ever in a million years.
And of course, that bloke that gets up and goes and takes a dump in somebody else's toilet, it reeks. It will
Oh yeah,
clear, and you get these blokes. One of my neighbours, he does a Trump. That's enough to clear out the whole house, and it's like,
yep,
and you,
yeah.
whereas
It's cliche with us
yeah,
now. Yeah.
trumping that stinks. And I know this is not the conversation anyone really wanted to hear when they started listening to this podcast, but trumping that reeks and makes wallpaper peel off walls, poops that make you wonder what the hell climbed inside you and died. They're not, they might, again, it's a chronic thing. People are used to it. It's just like, oh, that's just me. No, it's not. There's all the bacteria inside you. The trumps are from your bacteria building up all sorts of gases, which come out as a good fart. And then when you take a dump that stinks that bad, again, it's all of those bacteria, and they're all bad bacteria. That's why they reek. They're the
Yeah.
bacteria that are living inside a dead animal when it's decomposing, or in a stagnant pond. It's people think it's normal.
Yeah, and one of the things the opposition uses against us is that the meat stays in your colon and it's going to give you cancer. And I think it was Dr. Sean who said that meat liquefies right away in your stomach, just turns into liquid. You don't have meat in your colon. You have a remnant liquid, and that's been thoroughly squeezed of everything. It's just inert carbon at the moment, whatever happens at that point. And I can testify to that to a point, not from a scientific point of view, but that I don't have these horrible rotting stools. I have one that shoots out and goes, and that's the end of it. That I spend less time going the full bowel movement now than I did waiting for it to start back in the day. And that's really every single time. There is no difference. I don't have good days and bad days. I have one day, and that's every 3 days, and it shoots out. Yeah, I am talking about this too long. It's been a long time coming. I haven't had a microphone in front of me to
Nah,
talk about
that's
this.
great. Yep, yep. And so between eating one meal a day, what time do you eat your one meal a day?
2 o'clock to 4 o'clock. And when I first started, let's say the month mark, I just had to remind myself to eat and push myself to eat because I was burning so much body fat. My body could care less about food. That's the magic of carnivore there. So at 2 o'clock, I'd say, okay, it's ridiculous. I've been up for 6 hours. I got to eat something because I was programmed that way. But then I noticed, okay, a little longer, a little longer. And then it started interfering with other things I was doing. When you eat too late and like, okay, I was supposed to pick up my kid and all that. Now I got to cook and clean. So I forced myself to do a 2 o'clock, at least I start the process. And that's the way it's been running for the whole entire 7.5 months now.
Mm,
I have been ever since I quit drinking. Is I stopped drinking. I never say quit because I do reserve the right to go have a pint.
yep, good.
Your host the other day was spot on,
Yeah, that was
but
a
I still think
that was a sorry to interrupt. That was a pint of Guinness I had at my local up on Friday evening. None of my housemates wanted to come and drink with me, so I thought, screw this, and I wandered up, which is only 400 yards, and bought myself a pint of Guinness and sat down and very much enjoyed it. Thank you very much. Anyway, sorry.
it sounds awesome. But when I have that, let's say I did drink Guinness, I'm more of a rum guy, rum and Diet Coke.
Yeah.
Let's say I did have the Guinness in front of me. I don't think I could drink it. I think I'd be happy just sitting there. And the act of putting alcohol in my body just seems insane to me right now. Maybe I will get it back, maybe I won't. But I'm living nice right now in the fact that I'm doing some healing
That's
because I was
good.
just drinking way too
And that's
much.
brilliant.
And
That's a brilliant way to be.
yeah, and I thank Carnivore for that, for giving me the runway to take in my plane that way, because it would have just been cold turkey before, and I would have had regrets, and I would have had all sorts of lingering wants and desires. Now it's just I don't even think about it. It's I got too many things to do. So yeah, very thankful on that one. I don't count that as a condition that a carnivore cured. I just count that as circumstance. Just like I was off sugar for 3 years with dirty keto, but I could never get rid of my carb addiction. Breads,
Mm,
stuff like that, sugary vegetables. Like tomatoes. They still had a place in my diet, but with the carnivore, no, it's all gone. Every single one. I think the last thing I have that I think is an okay idea is ketchup. And for some reason, I'm very allergic to ketchup now. Even if I was to put a dab on, I would feel it in my knees. I would feel a burning.
mm,
So I that seems like a stupid idea to have my knees burned for one little food that I still think is okay.
yeah.
But I can really rattle off 100 foods that I just think are a horrible idea to put in your body anymore. And it is because, as they say, I'm on a proper human diet now. I'm not putting in things people want me to put in, that I'm being tricked into with jingles and labels and bright colors and aisles full of this stuff screaming messages at me. No, we all shop the perimeter now of the supermarket, and at that perimeter there are no shining packages. Everything's just plain and simple because that's the way it kind of should be now.
Yeah, yeah, you did right. And when you said that your shopping is expensive, the for anybody who's listening and thinking about this, of course, they might go, "Oh, shopping is expensive. I can't afford it." The thing is, though, or what you meant was that the meat is expensive, but then you're not buying all that other that other stuff that you normally would. You're not buying box loads of cereals. You're not buying chocolate bars or loaves of bread, you know, cans of Pringles, bags of crisps. All of that crap doesn't exist in your trolley. So I can go into a shop. Well, I do buy most of my stuff on a daily basis. I go to the gym after work, then I go to the shop and buy whatever I feel like for that evening meal. And I eat 2 meals a day, so I'll have breakfast at 10 a.m. ish, 11, and then my evening meal at after I get home, so it'll be 6:30 or 7. Um, so I'll figure out what I want to eat for breakfast as well, which is invariably that meat patty you were talking about, the burger patty, with a couple of eggs chucked in there. Um, but I can buy everything I need and just have a bag, a Hessian bag to put it in, because I don't have to buy all that other crap that you see people filling up their trolleys with all of that rubbish. It costs a fortune, has no
Oh yeah.
food value to it.
Yep. I still have kids, and I still have to put up with some of those things. Although they are falling away from my kids, they're slowly learning, listening to me. Of course, they have to listen to my podcasts that I listen to in the car as I'm driving, and it does sink in. Much like I inherited the cuisine from my parents, they're inheriting the cuisine from me, and it does make sense. And they say this generation kids is lost, but there's starting to be a backlash where they're starting not to believe people. They're really laughing at them. And I think you're going to see kind of a culture war eventually on what they're doing to these kids nowadays. So I'm very happy that my daughter and my son, they're 16 and 14, they're really responding to eating properly. I would never put them on carnivore saying, we're a carnivore family. No, it's I just say no crap foods. Of course, that leads to carnivore eventually, but it does cut down on the real garbage, the ice cream, the chips, the cookies. And I've been an anti sweets guy for a long time. Halloween and Christmas, I'd let them go nuts. Other than that, they need their own money to go buy their sweets. I still buy them crackers if they request them, bread if they request it. I can't deny them any of that stuff, vegetables. But I noticed, especially my son, he's a burger every meal now. That's all he wants is burger. And it's not to be like me because I eat eggs and he won't touch an egg. I can't bribe him to eat an egg. He just loves those burgers.
Yeah,
And chaffles, he loves chaffles as much as he loves bread. I just can't cook 3 chaffles a day for him.
yeah.
So I'm going to teach him how to do it, and then we'll see.
And incidentally, when either of us are talking about burgers, we are not talking about the bun that goes with a burger. We're just talking about the meat in the middle of the burger.
For him, I do give him a bun occasionally. Like I said, I can't cook chaffles 3 times a day for him. That is way too much workload. Now, of course, if you love your kid, you'll do it and all that sort of stuff. But the thing is, he's supposed to be cooking his own at this point.
Yeah,
And he's young. He can get over this, and he knows, and he eventually will gravitate. You don't want to take a kid and just cold put him into it. They'll resent it.
yeah,
They'll grow up their whole life thinking the pinnacle of life is to get back to my buns. You let it happen naturally as it goes, and it has happened naturally. He used to go through Fritos and what was those crackers? Another cracker. He used to go through one bag or box a day. Now he won't touch them at all. And I used to spend so much money on those, especially as the economy got worse. Nope, they all just fell away from him. And I'm imagining when I was his age, I was still eating my box a day. And I was a kid. I wasn't getting fat. It was just normal food for me.
yeah.
My daughter, she has done keto with me. The last when I started my last 3 years of keto, she went side by side with me, exact. And I'll never show a before or after picture of her, but she lost a lot of weight on keto. Now that's kind of precarious when you're divorced and you have kids and you're letting them do a fad diet, and that's just not good news for anybody. But if I ever had to show a family friend or anybody a picture of her before and after, they'd be saying, "How do I do this?"
Yeah,
Because she did drop a lot of weight. She didn't suffer anything from it. When she was a little bit on the heavier side, she was getting dizzy when she stood up. She was sleeping longer hours in the day, and that all cleared up. And she knows keto works, but she's a kid and she loves her food. It's a big social thing with the kids too. Like nowadays with I don't know. Do you have Chipotle and Subway over there?
we've
Um,
certainly got Subway.
yeah, yeah. Chipotle is our Mexican, and girls
Yeah, I
especially
think we do
love
have not
Mexican
very many
food.
of them, I think.
Yeah, yeah, and so it's a big social thing. It's not so much they're brainwashed into it. The girls just love that Mexican food. And being an Uber driver, I spent so much time taking cartloads of them to the local Mexican restaurant, and big thing. But of course, I can't touch any Mexican food anymore. Brazilian with the meat, yes. Mexican, it's just all gone, all the rice and the beans,
Yeah.
100%. But that's why she's not full keto now. But she keeps an eye on it, and that's good for a parent of a 16-year-old, and the kid is not eating junk. She eats holiday chocolates out of ceremony, and that's about it. So my parenting job is real easy because of that, and it's light on the wallet too. I'm very happy for that at the supermarket. Paring down, as you say, the trolley full of garbage. No, no. One of my highest posts ever on X that got the most likes was a picture of my shopping cart, my trolley, filled with eggs, beef, water, bacon. I took a picture of it. I put it up, and it blew the doors off anything of it. I poured my heart out before. I've done incredible things. No, I just took a picture of my cart. That's it. People loved it. The algorithm loved it, and rightfully so. Yes, but come on, it's. I felt inclined to do it a few more times, and I got the same results. But I'm not going down like that. I'm not being cart guy. I have more to say.
Yep. Yep.
Oh, a couple more things here.
Yeah, go on then.
The gut healing, candida, the mouth
Oh,
bacteria.
yeah. Yep.
That I was overcome with it. But when I was on my dirty keto, my tongue was white, my gums hurt. It's sign of bad gut, of course, having the candida. Do you know how to pronounce it? I've been meaning
I
to
think
look it up.
candida is about right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool. So that went away within the first week, and I'm sure the die-off did a number on my brain with the headaches and the bad feeling when all these bacteria die at once and suddenly are filled with their toxins from dying. But just having that, it was disgusting, and I'm glad to have got rid of that within the first week. I don't know why I lived with it. I don't know why I didn't look into it more. You've been on the internet. You've seen heel leaky gut. It's almost clickbait
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
But I don't know why I didn't deep dive into that, because that's a real put off to everybody, yourself, everybody else. So I'm glad I got rid of that
But
one.
then the problem is, then you do into Google it and you go, oh, I've got bad breath, or I've got candida, or I've got leaky gut, and you get, oh, you need this medication, you need that medication, you need to Listerine every day, you need to,
You
and
need to subscribe to my 12-step
yeah,
program.
well, exactly, and before you know it, even Listerine, I used to use Listerine quite a bit. I don't really use it now unless I'm really trying to impress some female. Um, but I like to think I don't have a reason to. That's the big thing, because Listerine's going to kill everything in its wake. So again, if you don't have to kill everything in their wake, because supposedly you've got good bacteria in your mouth. So,
You want to hear a dirty little secret?
go on then.
I haven't brushed my teeth in 7.5 months.
Now, it's funny you should say that. That is a dirty secret. It's a funny you say that though, because I tried that a couple of weeks ago. I went with a week without brushing my teeth. Do you not brush them, or do you just not brush them at all?
I floss.
Okay, I floss. Yeah.
I gotta get all that meat out, or else I'll have
Well, exactly.
Tyrannosaurus Rex breath.
Yeah, that's right. I floss probably twice a day for the same reason. I've got bits of meat stuck in my teeth, so and that have to come out. But yeah, I tried that. I went for about a week without without brushing my teeth. Then I decided I could feel the plaque building up, so I just brushed without toothpaste. Um, and I was looking to see if it had any effect on anything, and it really didn't. So I came to the conclusion that tooth brushing is another thing we've been told all of our lives to do. And of course, you have to have all of these toothpastes with fluoride in them. And what's the
Exactly.
fluoride for? It's to kill the bacteria that have been growing in your mouth because of all of the effing sugars you've been eating.
Exactly. Yeah, and I haven't suffered any ill effects. I don't feel a plaque or anything, since all I'm eating is meat or eggs, and I am convinced that they liquefy in the presence of anything human digestive. saliva and stomach acids. Meat liquefies. It doesn't turn into a calcium or a plaque or anything of the sort. I mean, I smoke. If you can see in the camera, just it's a dull gray on my teeth. Um, I don't get food or anything stuck in it other than stringy bits
Yeah.
in between the teeth. And that's why I do floss there. And I rinse with water when I drink. I swish. Um, it remains to be seen when I go to my dentist to see what he says, like, oh, geez, what's going on here? But I noticed my gums don't hurt anymore. And I know that's the candida mostly. But on the other hand, I may have been beating them up with the toothbrush this whole time, and that's why they were sore. And I haven't had any cankers. Not that I was plagued with them, but I haven't had any. All sorts of weird little tiny things you put up with your mouth, I don't put up with anymore because they're not there.
Mm.
So until I have a reason to brush, I'm going to continue on that way. Who knows? Maybe if I get a hot date, I'll go brush.
Well, that's right. Yep. That is quite interesting, and it's interesting you've gone for that long. You know, not
Yeah,
just like
I'm
me
amazed
with my
because I
1 year.
keep telling myself I got to at least brush once. I'll get to it. I'll get to it. No reason to at the moment. And when I do, I'll probably put a post on it on X.
And so you must have a lot of spare time because you eat once a day, you
Mhm.
poop once every 3 days, and you never brush your teeth.
it's that would have sounded insane to me 8 months ago. That would have sounded really insane. That would have sounded like I was Howard Hughes, high up in my penthouse, secluded off from the world, being a freak.
Yeah.
No, it's really, and you can't bring that up in polite conversation so much, any of it,
No.
because even the most benign parts of the conversation are pretty wacky. You have to set somebody up in a certain mindset to ingest what's going on.
Yeah.
It's kind of like why I spend a lot of time on X. I know you don't spend a lot of time there. You're active enough. But when your whole entire life is carnivore, you tend to turn to these people with any little question and all that stuff. So I end up spending a lot of time in between my normal work day. I still do a lot of eBay stuff, so I'm in front of a terminal anyway the whole entire day. So it doesn't affect anything on that angle. But it does keep me in line. It keeps me balanced, grounded, happy. And I am going to be spreading out. Believe me, not only is it not a stale thing that I'm battling, seeing the same people day in, day out, it's time to spread. But I think it is time to spread at least the danger part of what people are eating. I feel very compelled to tell people, yeah, don't put fluoride in your mouth. If you're going to do it, use baking soda. I don't do it at all.
Mm.
So, I use a little column A, column B, and then I tell my story. I'm not a preacher. I don't try to convert people. The one or two times friends have asked me, hey, what are you doing? I told them what I do, and they're like, that's interesting. And I refuse to follow up with them because I know they didn't listen to anything I said.
Yeah.
So,
Mm.
it's not my thing to preach.
No, that's right. And as soon as you start to preach, let's face it, as soon as anybody starts to preach, everyone switches off because they think, oh, here comes the big sales approach.
Exactly. Yeah, I still wonder if people think I sell anything. The only thing I sell is Polish salt on eBay. I made one sale in a year. It's hard to get stuff on this side of the world.
Mm.
It's from the Polish salt mines,
Oh, okay.
so it's underground. There's no microplastics in it. And I'm not plugging this. I'm just
Yep.
saying I don't sell a book. I would, but I don't sell plans. I don't sell AJ's secret plan to carnivore or any of that stuff. I don't sell my time. I don't endorse anything other than as a friend. I was waiting until the podcast till I put up a nice post about your book. I can't get over your sense of humor there. It's a really in line with me, and people seem to like what I write, my sense of humor. So why not endorse that? It's
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm very cautious about anybody talking to me. Oh, here it comes, the sale. Whether it be they're preaching for the preaching or preaching to sell something. Very few people just come at you and like, hey, I heard a really great idea today. So that's why I stick very tight with my friends on Twitter.
Yeah.
It's a real nice time.
Yeah, good. Yep. And thank you for the compliment too, by the way.
Oh, I'm complimenting myself just as much. You're welcome. I say I could have wrote this if I had a British accent.
Well, yeah, and then you hear me, and I've got a bloody Kiwi accent. So there you go.
I can't tell the difference.
No.
Oh, which reminds me, you had to think about how to pronounce my name Do you know where my last name came from?
No, I was thinking when I was walking the dog, I was thinking, I know you've made that name up. I was thinking, I wonder how he came up with that one.
I borrowed it from an Aussie, Mad Max.
All right.
It's Mad Max's character's name,
Oh,
Rockatansky.
is it? There you go. Every day is a school day.
Yeah. I got I'm from Polish blood in Chicago, and their last name is Rokita. When I go up the chain of where I came from, so Rokita Rockatansky. It was a nice fit.
Yeah. Yep.
Paid homage to my relatives, and and it got some Mad Max coolness. In fact, I have a lot of friends from New Zealand. I'm sure you know you bumped into Tara Cole on Twitter.
No.
She's big into farming, regenerative farming, meat concerns in New Zealand.
Okay.
When I first came on, since my name was Rockatansky, it put me in an algorithm bubble of about 800 Australians and New Zealanders. So I was up opposite times of them, so I never got to really communicate in real time. Like when I put an answer in, I'd have to wait 18 hours till I got an answer from any of these people. And then the algorithm realized, okay, he's not Australian. Let's give him some Americans in his algorithm.
Yeah.
And then I finally started to pop and really get into it. But it was so funny. I'm like, why do only carnivores live in New Zealand? Then I figured it out.
Yeah. Okay. No, and I'm thinking when I was over there, I haven't lived there for, well, the last time I lived there was for 6 years ago. I lived there for 4 years before then. But then I wasn't really into the keto carnivore space over there. It was just something that I did personally for my own benefit. Whereas here, of course, I'm thinking, well, as you know, I've written the book and I've got the podcast channel, and I'd like to the book's a funny thing because I make something like £2.50 out of a book sale. You know, I'm never going to end up with my new Range Rover that I'm planning on from selling books.
You never know.
Well, but if there's middle-aged men like us who read it and go, oh yeah, I suppose I could give this a go, then that's what I'm hoping. And I wrote it actually for a lot of my colleagues who are in that boat where health is starting to bite them on the ass and they are still unaware that they can do something about it. Apart from dieting and going on statins and heart medication, you know, all of these medications which aren't going to fix them. They're just going to stall or hide the illness, not fix the illness. So there you go.
Yeah. It's funny. At least you wrote it, and you never know where anything's going to take you. I mean, have you ever read any of the big doctors' books? You know, Dr. Sean's book, Nina Teicholz's Fat Book.
No, I've read a couple from that Gary Taubes wrote. Not the doctor's ones. Yeah, what's the other one I got at the moment? Is metabolical. What's his name? I can't remember, and it's not within grabbing distance. Yeah, the answer to that is no.
Yeah. Well, they are probably getting a little bit rich off their books. You know, at least there's a money stream off them because they do become Bibles. And I know I'm not going to become a doctor. I don't think you're going to become a doctor. But it seems if you're a doctor, your book can be on anything health-wise, and people will eventually buy it if you get enough crowd around you. That's and people do swear by these books. I just buy them to put on the shelves behind me to look important. I don't need to read a book to understand what they've been laying down. I just have to watch one video by them, and I don't have to go into the technical part with them. I understand the overgloss, and if I ever do need a reference, I can thumb through and find the exact chapter and read that chapter. So, yep. Once again, congratulations. Yours is the only book I've read practically in the past 3 years that I've read cover to cover, as it were.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Top to bottom. And it, what's funny is in the beginning was the money shot for me on that, because, that was you telling your personal stories and everything. Once you got into mechanics, I knew all that because I lived it myself.
Yeah.
And I lived it to an extreme and all that. But it was nice to see somebody else on the same page, so I kept reading. And I did have a couple of things that wait, I don't agree with that so much. But then I remembered that I didn't agree with that 4 months ago in my carnivore, and eventually I learned it. So, your second book, if you ever do put one out, I'm sure we'll have a few revisions in it and
Well,
everything.
that's right.
Yeah, nothing,
And if
nothing
it
glaring.
does instill a bit of debate in you, then that's fine as well.
Yeah, yeah. And it wasn't even so much for me to put down in my notes to go, hey, wait a minute. No, in fact, the debate won't be solved until something else breaks in the future on most of the stuff we argue about in the whole world on this. Vegans ain't so far from us with the getting healthy. They just stopped eating the garbage.
Yeah,
And now they're on one track with the vegetables. We're on one track, the other being carnivores. You're in the middle doing both. We're all three of us are doing pretty good compared to the ones who load their trolley up with garbage.
yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, and it's debates between all three of us that can be had easily. I don't like the vegans so much in their whole political, social problems with what we eat. I don't have political, social problems with vegetables, and I could make a stink about it if I wanted to, but I don't. We do it for fun. We say, you killed a whole bunch of bunny rabbits for your tofu. We don't mean that. We'll eat the bunny rabbits, but we're trying to make them feel guilty for trying to make us feel guilty, and it's a funny little war. And
Oh, it is a
you know,
war. It is a war,
these
and
will shake out
yeah,
eventually.
and you're right. People. There's always going to be lots of people on either side of the fence who get very excited with each other because we have opposing feelings, and a lot of the vegans are very, like you say, political about it and very vocal, and they do want to change the world to their way of thinking. And I think that's what gets me the most, I suppose. I would like people to be healthy and get rid of a lot of their chronic diseases, and how they do it is up to them, but there's certain ways they can do, getting rid of sugar and getting rid of processed foods. There's a huge difference straight away. If they can do that, they're halfway there. And then, but the vegans take it. I shouldn't keep talking about this, but the vegans take it to another
Oh,
level.
be my guest.
They,
Being a ex poster for much of every single day, I do have a little axe to grind with the vegans. They do take it a little too far, but I try not to. But it is nice to have a little outlet every once in a
yeah,
while, especially with somebody who understands from the global perspective of what's going on.
yeah,
They're entrenched. I'm almost entrenched. It's nice to have you're in the middle. You still eat your asparagus. I'd rather listen to you than my own brain when it comes to vegans.
yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, in fact, if they weren't so adamant about getting rid of me eating meat, I would care less. I wouldn't even acknowledge their existence. They'd just be another weird faction that more power to them. But they want to get rid of us eating meat.
Well, this is the
They're really,
thing, and this is where vegetarians you don't hear much about, because vegetarians are like us; they just get on with it, and they eat vegetables and nothing else. Or I guess you can have pescatarians and so on, but it's because they're happy just doing their own thing. And if we're all happy just doing our own thing, then what's the problem? Until you
exactly.
start lecturing somebody else about it.
Or legislating. That's what gets me. That's what keeps my fire burning on the whole animosity train.
Mm,
That's I would hate to see any legislation come down that limits my intake of meat.
yeah,
And things have happened. I'm still a cigarette smoker, and I've seen lots of legislation come my way to stop the smoking pipe. Now, yeah, it's the nicotine I want, not the smoking. So it wouldn't be the end of the world if they just outlawed cigarettes. But they have basically outlawed 90% of smoking in the state where I live. You can't get flavors anymore. Um, you can't buy in bulk anymore. It's pack is $15 US right now
bloody hell.
for the branded smoke. Yeah, and I smoke half a pack, sometimes a pack a day if I'm working hard. So that adds up. And I tried the gum, in case you're wondering. I tried the nicotine gum. I was on it for almost a year, and I noticed that the chemicals they put in it weren't agreeing with me that well. It's not that they were giving me an anxiety, but they would change my, I don't know, my thinking. There was a fake sugar in there, xylitol or
Yeah,
something, and it would make me a little bit quirky for a little bit, not brain fog, but kind of close to it. I was just aware that I wasn't thinking my usual calm when I have a cigarette.
yeah,
And nicotine's a great drug, but when you mix it with a fake sugar that hits your blood sugar levels and you're chewing a lot of it,
yeah, yeah.
then yeah, bad mix. There's other ways out there that I will eventually try, but add that onto the carnivore list. I used to have problems breathing, and it wasn't just because of the weight. Even when I'd go down in weight, even less than I am now on keto, I would have asthmatic. I would have coughing, hacking. At night, I'd have bad breathing problems. Nothing now, nothing at all, and I'm smoking. That's when I carry couches upstairs, I don't get out of breath. When I walk, I don't get out of breath. Anything I do, my breathing's normal now. There is something definitely wrong with the food supply, and not even going into conspiracy theory, there is something wrong with it. I just don't know what it is. I'm not saying they're poisoning us. I'm not saying they GMO'd us into oblivion, but eating something causes breathing problems with me and with a lot of people I know. And as you saw with the COVID thing, that it was all centered on the lungs. Nobody was dying of convulsions or heart attacks. Well, heart attacks maybe. Everyone was having breathing problems, and it was getting worse and worse with me every year, and not just because of the weight. Now it's all 100% gone. Now that I'm a carnivore, and once again, I can't argue this, but something will shake out eventually. Oh, we screwed up. We GMO'd the wheat to cause this certain reaction, and don't eat wheat anymore. It's pretty bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who knows? Could go anywhere.
Yes, indeed. So where would you? We gotta wind this up at some stage because we've been talking
Oh, of
for
course.
1 hour and 40 minutes. Believe it or not.
Yeah, I feel bad for your editing.
Oh, thank you. What's your ultimate goal? I suppose is, and then that's probably a trick question because I would have thought that what you're doing is more of a lifetime thing anyway. It's not like you can see a goal at the end of the field that you're playing for.
Yeah, well, I've accomplished everything I want to accomplish right now. Now it's just tweaking everything. And adding a few more little skills under my belt. I would like to learn how to actually process a cow or skin a deer perfectly. I learned enough when I was a Boy Scout of how to do basic things, but I'd like to get into the nuts and bolts. And that's just the fun stuff. As for the whole health journey and all that sort of thing, I still do have about 70 pounds to lose, and it's really stubborn at this point. I thought with the quitting drinking, I would just turn into a skeleton overnight. My body has adapted to make the best of the food that's coming in, and I'm only eating 1,500 calories a day. And I'm lugging around 260 pounds now. So you figure with me smoking half a pack of cigarettes at least a day, going up and down 3 flights of stairs, I would be burning that up on the cigarettes alone. And the work I do, hauling couches around, emptying storage lockers, you figure I would be losing it. I'm starting to worry if my thyroid's broken. It's because I'm not shedding it fast. I'm going about a pound a week now, and I'm not going to cut that meat. That's the nourishing thing I need to still heal my body. If I did any damage to my liver, my kidneys, my pancreas of the past 30 years of bad food, I want that healed. I'm not stopping my income of good, healthy, nourishing, restorative food. So it's not so much a goal as it's stay on track. That's easy. I can't think of falling off the rails right now. There's just no way to fall. You'd have to get me in a bad place. And I'm not talking like, let's say I go bankrupt overnight.
Yep.
I still would not go and eat a birthday cake. It's impossible. I wouldn't take one bite. I'd stuff myself full of a burger if I was feeling down. So I can't think of one scenario I would ever deviate off the carnivore. And that's why my goals are pretty wacky, such as skinning cows. I want to buy a farm. That's a long term there. I'm pretty close to farm territory up north. It's not the biggest growing season and cow season of the whole United States, but it gets done up there. There are cows up there in the farms, chickens. It's a big thing now in our Northeast region. Owning a bunch of chickens is really big.
Yeah.
Trendy with a survival crowd and all that. So, once again, the goals aren't so much health anymore. I healed 21 things. I have nothing less left to heal that isn't just going to take a little while. My hair, for one. I think that was the alcohol that did that not my bad diet. But the hair has to grow back. In fact, I did an oxalate dump where I lost a strip of hair, and you can't even see it. I lost a strip of hair on the back when I stopped eating vegetables. Just fell out. I was going to blame my hair, the hair lady who cuts my hair, that she zinged me. No, I found out I lost, if you see right here, I lost that too. I looked at the pictures. It was 6 days after I started carnivore that I lost this patch, and I assume that's when I lost this patch. I didn't know till I got a haircut. So, yeah, all sorts of little tiny things I'm keeping monitor on. No biggie anymore. Um, Become a bigger guy in social media and tell my story, and very thankful for this. Uh, I haven't done a podcast. Not that I don't believe in them. Not that I'm not into them. I listen to a lot of them. So it's nice to be able to see that I can do this. Especially like you said, we're almost 2 hours now. I'm not saying I'm a natural, but it's a natural thing for me to do, and that's a great feeling, and I can't thank you enough for it.
No, you're welcome. You're completely welcome. It's been it's obviously the fact that we've spoken for this long shows that we've had plenty to talk about, which is a relief for me as well. Because if you weren't talking and I was having to prompt you all the way through, that can be tedious for everybody.
That's work.
Yeah, don't make me laugh. I'll start to choke. Um, yep. Um, I might wrap that up now if that's okay.
Oh yeah, one last thing that I just promised at the beginning I'd get to. I got nice and healthy off a paleo slash Atkins uh, diet period I did for about a month, and I went to CrossFit, and I worked out there so hard I gave myself rhabdomyolysis. If you've ever heard of it.
No.
It's rhabdo for short. It's when you break up so much muscle fiber off your muscles, it clogs up your kidneys.
Oh,
That's a very armchair definition of what rhabdomyolysis is. So I ended up in the hospital for 3 days. They didn't have to put me on dialysis or anything wacky like that, but they had to rehydrate me and watch me because my body was filled with all these broken muscle fibers. That is when I stopped working out. If anyone wants to know why I don't work out, it's because I don't know if I'm predisposed to it. I don't know if I wrecked my body at some point where my muscles are prone to shredding. Now, we all shred. That's why they call it shredding. But mine shred and clog my kidneys. And I can feel it when it happens. You can tell by the color of your pee. So I'm a little unique on my carnivore trajectory because I will not work out like that anymore. I will do toning, I will do steps, I will walk. I'll do a little toning muscle reps, but I will not work out. I won't go cardio um, until I get that all within hand. My weight's down because I think that really contributed to it. You can work out all you want, but if you're heavy and you work out, you're working out 3 times harder.
well, you are.
So that's the little asterisk that I run on my whole carnivore workout. Another reason why I'm losing weight so slow. If people are looking at me going, 7 months of carnivore, I've seen better. Well, these people work out. You've seen the shirtless pictures of people. That's I still will do a shirtless picture. That doesn't bug me at all. But people have 6 packs by the 7-8 month mark. I don't have a 6 pack. I have a little bit of a muffin top left, but I have a nice little carve out there. I had a big, fat, bloated, leaky gut belly. Now I have inward abdomen. It's nice.
Yep.
And yeah, that's the last thing I think I promised in the whole 2 hours that I'd get back to.
Yeah, I think that is important though too, because a lot of guys and women who are listening to this and they're thinking, what sort of time frame can I sort myself out in? I've always thought the time frame really has got to be 1 or 2 years. So 6 or 7 months, I think, is very optimistic for anybody. If you're going to lose body fat healthfully, then it's got to be at a gradual pace, and people read all sorts of crap and see all sorts of bull on internet about losing 30 pounds in a month and all this. It's like, how are you going to do that? How are you going to lose 30 pounds in a month without something being a little bit wrong? So my theory is always that it's going to be a slow burner, and yeah, you'll get rid of your initial, and then after that, yeah, going to have to just stick to it and work, just keep at it. And it's like anything, just keep at it, and those fine tunings will happen.
Fully agree. That's yep.
Yeah, I think people can be too optimistic, and then when they hit a plateau, they stop because this isn't working for me, and off they go racing off to something else. I think that's the big problem. And if people have the right attitude at the start, if people have the right expectations at the start, then that's not going to happen.
Yeah, and that's why it's very important to get all these opinions that are out there from a nice tight knit community.
Yeah.
That's I can't stress the tight knit community enough. Every once in a while I do have a question, and I wonder if they think I'm insane asking them the question, and when I can go Google it. But no, like you said, you go Google leaky gut, how to fix it. You know what you're going to get on Google. Well, why would I ask a question about carnivore to Google? They're going to give me even worse advice than leaky gut. At least leaky gut's common among everyone. Carnivore, no, they're going to want to steer me away from
Well,
carnivore on
that's
Google.
right, Leo.
And they do. You ever see those first results when you put in something that involves fat, sugar, eggs, beef? The first result that comes up is something evil all the time.
Yeah.
Hate Google.
Yep. So where can people go to find you? You're on X mainly, aren't you? Or are you on X exclusively?
X exclusively, I reserve my name across every other platform out there, but I find them all lacking. X just is, it's all about free speech now, and it does have a great bunch of people. I don't know. Do you do Reddit at all?
No,
Reddit or Quora?
no. I did
Yeah,
open it
good.
up once and looked at it and thought I should because somebody said I should, but I never did.
It is a thinking person site, but it's full of angry people. And they're not shy about it. They're really angry. So I will not touch any of those sites. I don't even think I've reserved my name over there. But other sites, Facebook, all that. I do have names there, but I don't talk. So Twitter and then ajrockatansky.com, which I finally got around to fixing last night. It was still all about eBay, and now I've transformed it over and got rid of most of the eBay stuff. I'm not a big web presence guy. I'm more of wherever I lie my hat is where I speak from.
Yep.
So I'm getting used to this whole thing as I'm getting a following of great friends, great friends. I can't speak highly enough of them. And I was very excited to see you over there. I hate it when somebody's a Facebook person. I hate having to go over there and read it. It's a different feel, a different vibe. So I'm sticking with Twitter until the next shoe drops on this whole whatever's going on with the whole information on the internet and how people like to restrict and have evil algorithms govern everything. I'll be there for quite a while. That's my big thing.
Good. Excellent. All right. Well, thank you very much for your time. And obviously, I'll be in touch with you pretty much on a daily basis on X anyway. But as far as the listeners are concerned and stuff, thank you for your time here, and good luck with your future.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Pete.
All right.
Had a great time.
Excellent. Okay. See you later. Now, I confirm